Hi, we're just waiting for a few people to join, and then we will make sure everybody's in from the waiting room. All right, well, let's get started. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining today's session, Staying Ahead of Compliance, Metadata Change Detection in Veeva Vault. I'm Mary Kirshner, and I lead customer success at Focal CXM, and I'm really happy that you've joined us today. A quick bit of housekeeping. Please drop your questions that you might have into the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do our best to answer them during the session. Next slide, please. So here's the challenge we're tackling. In life sciences, even small undocumented changes like a new Picklist value can cause compliance risks, slow workflows, and trigger audit issues. Manual monitoring is slow, error-prone, and reactive. And so our solution is an automated way to detect, track, and report metadata changes in Veeva Vault. It helps regulatory, quality, and IT teams stay compliant, cut manual effort, and give business users mind. Next slide, please. So we're excited to have two of our seasoned experts with us today. Adi is our co-founder and CEO of Local CXM. He has deep expertise in life sciences, CRM, compliance. And Ashok is an enterprise architect here at Focal, specializing in Veeva Vault integrations and compliant-focused solutions. Thank you both for joining us today, and I'll hand this over to you, Adi.
Thank you, Mary. Thanks for this. Again, thank you all for tuning in, listening into this. Over a period of time, over the last few decades, basically implementing multiple projects, delivering software, enterprise-grade software for the life sciences industry, it's very clear that there's nothing very small, everything is big. So even a Picklist value or an object metadata, everything really matters. So we want to walk you through a couple of ideas that we have and what we are doing, and hopefully hear from you in terms of any questions and best practices, and see what we can learn from each other. Next slide. So if you consider any project, whether it is irrespective of the system, right? Whether it is Salesforce, whether it is Veeva, whatever we are using, this metadata that is extremely critical, and metadata comes in various forms. So you have, in the PromoMats instance, there is document metadata. That could be various attributes, versioning, relationships, etc. There could be object level metadata, which are the fields within that particular object, configuration and system. So there's so much of metadata and reliance on metadata in compliant industries. And life sciences is no exception. And it's super critical in many of the projects. What we noticed is that a lot of changes happen. Obviously, there is a process setup. Given the industry, given the nature of the industry, there is a process setup and folks have to align with the process, but then things keep changing. And it's very difficult for everybody, whether it is an enterprise architect or whether it is a business unit person coming in from content authoring or content ownership, wherever the stakeholders come from. It's very difficult, and it's important for them to know what changes are happening in the system so that they can modify their SOPs, they can modify their training, etc. Right? So this is what our focus will be today. Next slide. Yeah, and like I said, metadata changes for various reasons, and it's important to be able to track. It could be data or metadata. In this example, we are focusing only on the metadata aspect and not so much on the data, but whatever we do is applicable absolutely for data as well, to understand from a lineage standpoint how data is changing over a period of time. But again, let me bring the focus back to just metadata. Next slide, please. If you look at the metadata changes, there could be various reasons. One, absolutely the platform induced changes which come in periodically with every release from Veeva or any of the stakeholders, any of the platform providers. There could be internal releases. For example, there is a centralized team, IT team, responsible for deploying changes across the enterprise, and they could be making some changes, and those changes need to be visible to the business. Yes, normally there is a process for it, but how can there be a better way of collaboration and making sure that the information is dispersed properly? The third thing is divisions. There could be multiple divisions, multiple business units within the enterprise. So a lot of times what we notice is that there are some changes which happen in one business unit that unfortunately are not propagated properly to the other business unit. And these changes may cause regression and other unexpected behaviors for the entire enterprise across the business units. So there could be compliance issues, there could be user experience issues, because what if there is a new field, would the user know about it? The user may not know what exactly it is, or use it in an improper way, and there could be some workflow associated with some metadata that could result in a different workflow rather than the expected one. And then training is a big one. So when even small changes will result in training impact, so the end users again may not know what exactly to do with it. So what we did, or what we've been doing while working either on rebates or working on compliant data sets, Vault, etc., we've come up with some few ways that we would like to walk you through today and share our thought process in terms of how we are sort of reimagining and re-engineering these fundamental challenges. So we're not talking about any AI at some point that will come in, but very, very base and important needs across IT, business units, SQA within the enterprise. Next slide. To kind of hone in on a simple example, if you take a document type as a pick list and imagine that R1.0, I'm talking about the internal releases and not external release. So then let's say there is an R1.0, you have a specific list of values in that particular document type pick list. In 1.1, over a period of time, again, a new value is introduced, that's E. And in 1.2, as an example, something like a value A would change to A prime and B would change to B prime. Minor changes, maybe the name for that particular picklist value changes, and how do you ensure that there is no regression elsewhere? Similarly, over a period of time, so many things happen, and then it's important as a maintaining a compliant system, it's important to have an idea on what are the changes which are happening in the system, how do we keep a tab of them, and how do we know the previous values as well? Because oftentimes this question comes up, what was the value in the last release? People struggle. Despite the fact that there is an audit trail and all that, it's not very evident, it's not very easy to be able to understand and figure out these changes. And that is what we are trying to accomplish here, what we are trying to bring in to solve. Next slide. So to give again an example, Veeva has multiple APIs, which is awesome. Basically, we can call the API, get the metadata, get the data depending upon the use case. So whatever the metadata is, folks who are used to Veeva, you're already aware that there is an API to be able to invoke and then get the whole Excel extract as a zip file, and then we can go in and figure out what are the metadata values. There is also the possibility of going into the UI. Like most of the times, from what we see is people are comfortable going into the UI and going into the deployment tab and then downloading a zip file that has all the metadata. So that is one way of doing it. And the other way of doing it is also using the API, and we can do more stuff programmatically is what we believe in. So this is on the right side, most of you are familiar with in terms of what the extract from Veeva would look like. So this is what we try to automate and figure out how do we baseline and understand changes over a period of time. Next slide. So what I would like to do is I'll walk you through a quick demo. We'll give you two demos. One is what I will be leading right away, and then I will hand it over to Ashok, my colleague, who will be walking you through another example to kind of bring this concept to life. So let me share my screen here. All right, so right now I have Veeva here. I'll get back to this in just a second. But let's say that I'm logging into Data Gaps, which is our partner, and we leverage their solution for solving data quality, data validation, testing automation related challenges. And what we do is we leverage that platform to be able to build a workflow. Before I get into the details, I'll probably walk you through real quick in terms of what the system is. One, as you can see here, there are multiple sources. You can basically build all the sources that you see. There could be your data warehouse, there could be your Veeva platform, it could be your Salesforce platform. So there are multiple ways. So we have about 18 sources here. And then we can build the catalog. There are multiple data models. We are not getting into all the details here, but happy to reach out to you offline and walk you through what are the possibilities that can be done. So first thing I want to focus on is, again, the data flow that I would like to walk you through. So here I have two data flows. When I say data flow, here it is, let's say that this is pretty intuitive to understand, and I'm not getting into the details of how to build one here, right? So for example, if I walk you through this, and then I say that this is the Veeva Web Metadata API. So essentially there are multiple components like plug and play. What I do is I drag and drop a component, call an API, and then using Veeva provided API, we make a call and get the latest metadata. And this one, just for a demo, in this example, we took a snapshot of the Picklist at a point of time t0, like even yesterday or something like that. Then what we are trying to do, or what we want to do, is be able to compare these two data sets, whatever the API is returning in real time to what is there in the baseline in the system, and then compare that result and then get it into a snapshot. So to give you an idea, instead of running it, I will try to run it, but I'll also want to show you what the delta would look like, right? So once I run it, I can schedule this at a period of time. For example, again, if I'm doing some work in a particular environment, then I have the ability to schedule all these flows. I can define a flow. I can define a flow entails, in this case, the call to the API, a snapshot, or whatever I wanted to compare to, and then the data comparison, the actual process of comparing these two data sets based on the codes and values. And then I can also create a snapshot so that the latest is always taken in. We kept it simple, just in the interest of time and for this demo. But let me click here and show you what this would look like, right? So as you can see, whenever the test is run, and this notifications and all exist in the system so that folks get notified whenever there are issues as well. But as you can see there are issues here, which means that whatever the API retrieved in real time for this particular run did not match with what is in there. So if I click on this column-wise mismatches, what you see here is essentially there is a Picklist value, and the Picklist value did not match. Earlier, it was actually in the A, it was inactive, and then for whatever reason, A is basically the snapshot data set or the metadata API, and then B, originally in the snapshot, it was set to false, right? So it was set to true. So the values changed, which means that somebody accidentally or deliberately modified this particular value and was not communicated to the greater team. It could be, again, business stakeholders, SQA, or the IT teams. And then it's important for everybody to be in sync. So running this particular data flow would give us a perspective on how many I have matched and how many have mismatched, and what were the only items which are only, in this case, we have no problem. There's nothing that is different. It is just that the same set of rows exist in both. However, the values have changed for this particular field, right? That's what this is. So this is a simple example that kind of brings to life in terms of how we can visualize changes. So now let me go back to the flow and do a quick run, right? So if I run this data flow, what's happening is this is actually running it in real time, and it creates a snapshot at this point of time, right? It may take a minute or so, a few seconds. So it is showing you that it is making a call, going to the Veeva Vault, trying to come up with the metadata, and then comparing it with the process. So it is showing what is running, what is in process, etc. So while this happens, while this is basically running, this will take, like I said, a minute or so. But the concept is essentially each one will run and the results will be displayed. And this time it's possible that because we are getting the latest, now everything would match and there may not be a disconnect. As you could see here, there is no, it's completed, and then we have whatever results are run. The Picklist value for the audience has been captured here. And then the response status overall is green. The reason is green is because it'll complete and it'll update it here. But the reason it is green is because there's nothing else that's pending, right? So now the reason it succeeded is because the values matched, right? Because it's latest snapshot to the latest results. And let me try something out here. If I go to the pick list, if I go to the audience pick list, and let's say that I inactivate something, I change this from active to inactive. Now it is inactive, and let's say manage markets, also I mark it as inactive, and I do this. Then what happens is, now if I go back to my flow, and then if I go to the data flows, if I go to the dynamic pick list, and then if I do a run at this point, this was the old one that I was showing. Now, if I do a run at this point of time, what happens is it's basically trying to understand, again, get the snapshot data, number one, go to the vault, bring in the data set, and then compare these two data sets and identify if there are any differences which can be identified, right? So imagine this kind of a report coming to the administrators, coming to the architects every single day, or to the QA teams. If this stuff is happening on a regular basis, the advantage is that we can have a much better handle, a lot better visibility into the pick lists which are changing. Again, in this case, it's only an example, but what the changes could be happening elsewhere, and we can keep, it's almost like a continuous monitoring of all the changes which are happening in the system, right? After this is run, I'll also show you what we can do on the object level. So if you look at this, the latest one, green, and then here it shows the data comparison failed. And as you can notice here, so there are two pick list values which have changed, and that's what is reflected. So if you see the general manager, earlier it was actually set to active, and now I change it to false. So now it identified, at the same time, it could be the value, it could be the description of that, whatever, anything that changes for this particular pick list, for this particular metadata that I'm showing you in this example, will be captured, and we can have better visibility. Hope that makes sense. And again, we can talk about any questions towards the end. So if again, to drill down, if I click on this basically is a component that has the details of making a call to the API. And again, that could be another session where I can drill down into the details. Very similarly, so if I click on the data flows again, and we built another data flow, which is for the Veeva Vault artifacts. So I spoke about the fact that, when we invoke a particular API, we get the whole metadata file for across all the objects, everything that we get, and can store within the system. So in this scenario, I'm interested in basically comparing two data objects. One is the language and the other is the product. So these are not metadata level, these are the object level with specific attributes. So if I want to do this, then I can come in and then do the same process, right? So if I click on this, then I'm able to fetch the artifacts, complete it, and then I have a snapshot, a very similar process in this case as well. Instead of running it in the interest of time, what I'll do is I will go to the historical set, which is essentially every run that happens in the system. So there are a few that failed, there are a few that are successful. So I just want to click on this particular and as you can see here in red, which means that this failed. So I'm clicking on this. Again, the reason why this failed is because there could be some difference in a specific view. As you can see here, the difference is percentage in terms of it is giving a percentage, but there's something that changed in the picklist value. I can go back into Veeva, I can rerun it and change the language object, create a new attribute. A lot of times new attributes get created for a given object, or existing attributes get changed. The label for that particular attribute changes. All these things can be automated and can be captured using this the data flow mechanism, right? And again, like I said, these can be scheduled so that every time the schedule, based on the schedule, every night things run. Let's say that I'm in a freeze mode in a particular QA environment, and I want to freeze my code today so that no other metadata is changing over the next few days till we go into production. So that way I can schedule the whole thing, make sure that the metadata is being tracked every single day from an transparency and observability perspective, and ensure that nothing new is coming in, because these are the problems that we see on a regular basis across the board. Okay, we will reach out to you again offline if you're interested in going into the details of any of these flows. But I hope this gives you an idea on what we are trying to solve, how we are trying to solve, and see if we can collaborate with you. With that, I will hand it over to Ashok, who is my colleague, like I said earlier, and he will extend it. So far, what I showed you was more of a read-only, okay, these are the differences, great. It's always good to understand that. But what we are also trying to figure out is what are the changes which are happening and how can we do something more with it. With that, I'll hand it over to Ashok. Ashok, if you can share your screen.
Yeah, yes, Adi. Thank you. Let me share my screen. Yeah, is my screen visible? I hope my screen is visible. Yeah, this is the UI that where we are going to track.
Not yet, Ashok.
Sorry, I think now, guys, is it visible?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. This is the UI that where we are going to completely track the journey of the pick list. The journey of the pick list is nothing but as part of metadata, we have selected the pick list. That pick list journey is nothing but if you add anything to that pick list, or if you delete, update, whatever, just the entire journey is going to be tracked as part of this. So everything we can see here. I will show you that pick list and everything. So how we are going to track that one is, if you go here as part of the pick list at the very first version, what we have is these are the values that are part of that pick list. Okay, that's what. And after some time, one value is removed. That value is this one. So that is removed. That's why, another item is being created here by telling that, some change has happened, so and so date. And after that, if any change happens, again, it is going to be tracked here. So like this, we are going to track all the changes to particular pick list. Now also we are going to modify one pick list and we can see that how it is happening. Are you able to see my Viva screen? I think I need to reshare 1 second. Yeah, I hope my screen is visible. Yeah, this is the pick list that we have selected to check this one. So right now we have these many values. If we make any change to this value, like Adi told, that is only data, read-only thing, right? But here what we can say, we can do is we can track and we can apply the change also seamlessly. So for example, if I make any change, if I want to, like Adi did that, I can also make this one inactive. Second. Yeah, yeah, I made it inactive now. So now this, 1 second. So we cannot make that one. Let me make this one inactive. That is a default one. We should not touch that. Okay. So I'm making this field as inactive. So right now it is inactive. So how we are going to track that one is we have a lambda, AWS lambda. If that lambda runs in the background, it is just going to check that AWS pick list value changes, or there any changes for that pick list. If there is any change in the background, it is going to, create some data, and based on that data, this UI is going to work. Right now, I'm going to run that lambda. Yeah, I did run the lambda. So I run the lambdas. It is like, Viva POC pick list. We have only 9 versions, right? If I refresh this one, I'm refreshing the screen once more. Okay. Let me remove this drop one. Let me remove, make it inactive. Okay, I made it inactive. Now I need to run the Lambda in the background. So I am trying to run the Lambda in the background. I
While
will
Ashok,
run it.
while Ashok is running it, it's primarily a way to show how, from an engineering perspective, Viva and AWS and how we can leverage the overall engineering aspects to make sure that we have a lot better control in terms of not just viewing the data, but also approving the metadata changes, object level changes.
Yeah, so we can see that change happening here. So if we want to apply this one, just we can click on this directly, and that's it. This change is applied directly.
Yeah,
If we want to, apply this
we
one.
see only your Viva screen, Ashok.
Yeah, oh, okay. That's a problem. Share everything. Yeah, is my screen visible, Adi? Entire one.
Yeah, we see it.
So same change can be applied so easily by clicking on this tile. So if you see that, here this value is not here. So if we have to apply this one, simply by clicking on this, we can apply this.
Thank you, Ashok. Yeah. So this one we are trying to, this is more of an experiment really that we are trying to do in terms of especially the one which is about approving the pick list, whereby how do we bring in the more control and more governance into what is actually getting into the system, what is getting approved, which value should be allowed, which value should not be allowed. Someone from the business stakeholders can actually approve and drive it forward, right? So these two examples hopefully give you an idea of how our thought process is. Krishna, if you can share the screen again. So this is what we are trying to get to, and it's very exciting, especially as we go through this process of figuring out and bringing in more visibility into how stuff works and what we are doing. Like I said, these are the things that are very important, and how as the future evolves, if you go to the future slide, Krishna, what happens is it's important to understand what does the future look like, right? How do we get into the next level? So next slide. What we believe is we've been playing a lot with agentic AI and how agentic AI can make a difference in terms of understanding these changes. And just like many others who are investing, experimenting, playing around with agentic AI, we do believe that we can have specialized agents that can actually understand the changes which are happening within the Vault platform or any other system, so that we can have a lot better control and take away the anxiety, take away the frustration, take away the pain of changes coming in inadvertently into the system. Okay. We hope that this was helpful, and we are happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you, Chuck. We really appreciate sharing this, your expertise with us today. There are a couple of questions. Give me 1 second here, I'll pull those up. Question number one, does this work for other systems as well, like Salesforce?
Yeah, so the demo that I showed absolutely works for any enterprise system as long as they provide APIs, or if there's no API, still historical or anything we can work towards it. But they do work for Salesforce. It does work for multiple systems, no problem. It's all about just leveraging the API. How do we baseline? And the system could be independent. Veeva was used only here as an example, but it could be any system.
Okay, great. Thank you. Another question is, can it help with enterprise data reconciliation, comparing data across multiple systems, including Veeva and others?
Yes. Again, the same concept applies, and typically what we see is we have a portfolio of enterprise systems, the key pillars in a typical life sciences environment. The people use organizations use Salesforce, they use Veeva, they use SAP and other systems as well, Workday, etc. And it's super critical to be able to bring in. That is one of the popular use cases too, in terms of how do we ensure that a list of products, let's say from the product master, is actually the same thing that is pushed down to Veeva or Salesforce. How do we ensure that the list of customers is the same, any of the master data? So enterprise reconciliation is a very popular use case that we normally see. And most of the times what happens is everybody delivers applications. It's easy, it's relatively straightforward to build out applications, but the challenges come out when we talk about data, when we talk about the reconciliation with respect to data sets. How do we ensure that all the data across all the systems is consistent so that we can avoid the challenges? And that's where part of the experience comes in as well from a data perspective. So yes, we can absolutely do reconciliation.
All right, thanks. Another question here. What does it take to do a pilot?
Yeah, so we work very closely with the product team, and typically it's like a 2-week free pilot. Our team comes over, we work together, and make sure that we identify a set of use cases. We figure out write down what the success criteria for the use cases are. So typically what we see is about 2 to 3 week cycles, and we're happy to work with you on any pilots.
Okay, and if people wanted to initiate a pilot, they could get in touch with us through our website, correct?
Yep, yep, that's right.
Okay, great. And then last question here is, are there any other use cases that are popular?
So using this suite of applications, again, everybody's talking about AI, agentic AI and all that, but we all know that fundamentally the spirit of the game is around data. How do we take data and make it great data that we can actually rely on? How can we establish the trust in the enterprise data that we own? Because without good data, there's no enterprise, there's no AI, there's no agentic AI. Ultimately, all decisions are rationalized based on the data. So a bunch of use cases, like I said, reconciliation is one, data quality profiling. So in terms of looking at a particular system and understanding the data quality within that particular system is one popular use case. And a lot of times there is Power BI and Tableau, and there are challenges because there are reporting systems out there. And how confident are we that we can actually look at a KPI presented in a particular report or a dashboard and make sure that we can trust the data that is shown in the dashboard? The pie chart may look beautiful, but is the pie chart worth it? Is it trustworthy? So there are some use cases around business intelligence testing automation. There are use cases around reconciliation, data quality, and general testing automation for large migration projects. These are some of the popular use cases.
No, it seems like there's a lot of opportunities to utilize this.
Yeah.
All right, well, that is all we have for questions today. I'd like to thank you, Adi and Ashok, for your guidance here, and also thank everybody for joining. We really appreciate your time, and if you'd like to get in touch with us, please do. And you can use the code here or find us on our website. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Bye.